We have our staff on it, Dan, but we believe that you read a fake Shaq quote yesterday.
No.
Yeah.
What was the quote?
No.
He called.
No.
Oh, it wasn't NBA Central. It was NBA Cantrell.
Oh, they fooled me.
Hit him up.
Dylan Brooks's butt quote is not real.
Hit him up style. Blue Cantrell.
Oh, man. They did trick me by misspelling the NBA Central.
Hey, ladies.
It's just an aggregate, though.
So-
you always got to go back to the first
source.
blue check,
You gotta
which
go
is
to the
now
source.
way more confusing in Elon Musk chaos theory.
But the other thing that's interesting about that, Dan, is like I read this a long time ago that if you wrote, like I could write this entire sheet, and as long as the first letter and the last letter of every word is correct, I can jumble up all the letters in the middle and you'll read it instantly. Like there's no pausing of Pentagon. You'd be like, Pentagon official said in the draft doc, you read it instantly. Because the way we read, we don't actually read. Our mind is filling in the blanks a lot. So as long as we have that first letter and that last letter,
exactly,
and all the correct letters are present,
it makes me feel no better about this. It makes me feel no better about how often this has happened and how real these things feel, because it did sound like something Shaq would say, did it not?
Yeah, that's why.
That's the key. Yes, Billy, you'd be very good at this. If you want to start
a con, yeah.
If you want to start a con with Stugotz, you guys could absolutely start an account.
Why with me? I mean,
just because you're good at cons.
I don't. I'm not a big fan of like the con and like the parody account. Like, I have an example of someone that's like a show fan that I followed, and I shouldn't say this because it's just giving attention to the situation, but like. They literally changed their account to make it seem like they were a local news station to report someone died last week that did not, in fact, die. And I was like, I thank you for being a show fan. I feel like I may have to mute you or unfollow you now because I can't have people actively trying to trick people. I feel like it's not a good thing.
But isn't that what's happening all over? Like the people who keep tricking me with this stuff, isn't that their sole reason for having an account that misspells
to trick you.
NBA Central?
The crazy thing is, none of this gets monetized, right? Like nobody gets to.
Well, how do you know?
NBA Cantrell, how are they monetizing it?
I have no idea. But,
and if you don't know, then that tells me.
Okay.
Like you're the one who can monetize
start
anything.
doing it? Yeah.
Exactly. So like people are literally doing this in their spare time just for their spare time and enjoyment.
To fool the occasional person with someone dying and placing that morbidity and that grief in their life because it's funny to tell them, hey, that person didn't die, and then you can laugh at them.
Well, at the time, it got like 7,000 plus retweets, and it's like, okay, this person has convinced people that this person is dead. And then they're going to like retweet it or whatever, and then like that's the big payoff is you trick people into thinking someone's dead.
Speaking of scams, Chris Cody was explaining here that you heard this during
where it usually goes. I mean,
during the break, the scams around Stugotz involved lying to your significant others about what you're watching.
Oh no, we're talking about this back here. So sometimes I watch a show and with my wife, and I love it so much, and my wife, doesn't have as much time to watch stuff as I do sometimes. So I want to move ahead without her.
Yeah.
I want to watch. I have to watch this next episode of Ted Lasso, and then when it comes down time that she can watch it, I'll just pretend like I haven't seen it. And I realized I literally said this. I thought I was admitting something incredibly shameful, and everybody popped up. I've done that once. Yeah. I've done that. So apparently it's a thing.
Yeah, it's entertainment infidelity almost, right? And we were talking about entertainment infidelity. The way that it started was I said, and at the time I thought it was like a controversial thing. I go, I have something, like, I don't know if I want to admit this out loud. I feel like other people might say it, but it's not something we can talk about. I don't love watching shows with my significant other all the time if it's something that I like because of that situation where then we have to sync schedules, right? And it's usually like I'll find a show that I like and my wife will be like, oh, I want to watch. Yeah. And it's like, okay, sure, like let's enjoy this together, right? Yeah. And then like we get 2-3 episodes in and then like she'll fall asleep and then I'll be like, well, I want to know what happened. So I'll keep going, right? Or like I'll get home a little bit earlier the next day and I'm like, well, I need to know what happened. Like we ended on a cliffhanger. Like I can't watch a show that ends with to be continued and just let that exist in the universe for 4 days until we can catch back up to it, right? So like maybe I'll go and I'll watch an episode or two. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then maybe an episode or two turns into I finish the entire season, right? Mm-hmm. And then like my wife comes back and I can't be like, hey, you know, while you were doing XYZ for our family, I was here just watching television and I was having entertainment infidelity, catching up on shows. So I have to, like Chris
now you
says,
have to act all shocked when things
exactly
happen.
right.
Like, what?
Yeah. So like
Can
you
you believe that?
Seeing it for the first time.
So
yes,
it's a tricky thing, right? Because like then you get in a situation where then you get asked the question at some point, like, did you watch more? Like, did you see this? And it's like, well, how far do I carry out this lie? Like, do I say yes? Because then I'll deal with those ramifications. Mm-hmm. Do I say no? Mm-hmm. If you say no, which is usually the move, like, no, I just want to, right? You say no, and then you sit back and you rewatch the episode, right? But then if it's at a certain point of the night, I don't know if you guys have run into this. If it's at a certain point, then we start getting tired again. Yeah. And then we start falling asleep again. And like, I know either a good thing is coming or I know I'm 3 episodes ahead. We need to catch up today. Like, let's go, wake up. So like you just start like nudging, like, hey, like the time with the Jimmy Buffett thing, the cheeseburger in paradise. You guys remember that story?
I don't.
So
I'd like you to stop talking for a second. Jessica, what are your thoughts? Jessica, well, I
just
want to know.
cooking.
He was just starting. It's just so annoying. Jessica, do you
only had 17 minutes to go.
Do you lie to your significant other about entertainment infidelity?
I want to hear more about what Billy was saying.
Yeah, me too.
Nah, I'm done.
I don't know the cheeseburger in paradise story.
Someone at the Jimmy Buffett concert fell asleep, and the question was whether you should wake them up to hear Cheeseburger in Paradise.
He was wearing a cheeseburger head.
Oh,
he was there for the song.
You got it. That's a huge part of it.
So the point is, the larger point is, you then need to like, you either need to wake up or you need to be like, hey, you need to catch up because I can't do this for 4 days and keep watching the same episode over and over
then
again.
You'll get too far ahead.
Can I ask you guys a question? Why can't you say, hey, I watched a couple episodes. I'm willing to watch
Grounds
them
for
again
divorce.
with you.
Yeah.
I got news for you. They know when you're lying.
No,
they
That's
do.
not true.
No,
Yeah.
they don't.
No,
I
it's true.
was telling Billy and Chris and Jer Bear and Tony that I read ahead on Wikipedia what was going to happen during a show on Netflix that I was watching with my boyfriend, and I just like pretended like I knew who the bad guy was. I was like, I feel like he's bad news.
See, that's another level of lying because it's unnecessary, right? At least
Totally
They could have way too
unnecessary.
much.
in the case of Billy, at least he watched the show. You're like, I'm not even gonna watch the show. I'm gonna read ahead and then
I
pretend
was like,
to be.
that guy seems suspicious.
Let me tell you guys something.
That seems like the worst of the lies, though, to pretend so deeply that you have seen things.
It's also like a teen drama, and everyone saw that coming, so it wasn't like that big of a. I'm watching Outer Banks.
What is the worst of the lies, though? I think the worst of the lies is pretending like you haven't watched it and then correctly guessing mystery plot twists.
Oh, I think I've done that. I think I might have done that.
Is
Why
there
would
something
you
worse
do
than
that?
All right. My worst example of this is my wife I watched the entire first season of Ted Lasso and like didn't tell my wife. This is like a 3-month affair I was having with Ted Lasso. And then
Stop it.
And then I'm like, we gotta watch this. And then so I had the whole season banked when we started it. Because honestly, I did this because I enjoyed the season. Like normally, I might do the Stugotz and be like, look, I watched this. You gotta watch it. It's really good. But it was so good that I was willing to watch it again. So and I may have a couple times. I don't remember any specifics, but like, I feel like this is gonna happen. Like,
This Nate
predicted
guy.
something. Like, God, I'm the worst looking back on it now.
Why?
I don't know. There's nothing like
Wait.
being right on a when you
You
predict the
pretty
show.
good.
You
If
pretended
you're
like
if you're watching The Departed, you're like, hey man, I got a bad feeling about this elevator.
Roy Kent. I bet he's got a soft side.
Don't. Billy's looking at me different now. I'm just like
no,
you.
like why?
I'm just like you.
I slipped up. It's not who I am.
No, but
disappointed.
You watched it and pretended not to rewatch it. The next season was not out yet.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it before the entire season.
You're like, people are saying this is good. We should give it a try together. We'll enjoy it, I think.
Let me tell you guys something. When it comes to entertainment infidelity, I'm the Tristan Thompson of this shit.
Wow.
I am amazing.
Really?
I will watch the shit out of anything and then pretend like I didn't. And here's the key. Most people, you guys, I can already hear it. You know why you get in trouble? You're talking too much.
That's the thing.
You're talking. Just shut up and sit there.
I didn't get caught, actually. This saying it now is revealing, and she might hear this. But
I'm a bad liar. I always get caught. And my wife will ask me multiple times, did you see this already? I'm like, no. And she said, did you see? And
But
it's
what
like,
are you doing?
can we
You're
just
doing,
finish?
Billy,
Like,
you're
I get
doing
through?
something,
He's
Billy.
talking.
What's your tell? You're doing
My tell is I
something.
try to get her to finish the episode so I can move on with my life and move on to the next episodes. I have a deadline.
honey, wake up! I have a feeling something big's
exactly
happening right here.
I'm
Honey.
like, come on.
Billy,
Major plot points coming.
her falling asleep is the best thing to happen because then you can play it off like, yeah, that happened when you were sleeping.
Yeah, no, yes, but then the next day she wants to see what she missed. So we're rewatching the same episode every night, and I'm like,
Now you're watching the third time?
I watched the same episode like 4 times.
You can
That's
only
why.
sell it so many times.
Exactly right. That's why I'm like, hey, come on. We got to finish watching this episode because I know the next day I'm going to watch 2 more episodes.
Plot points. Wake up.
Do you guys have? I have like the opposite problem with this sometimes, where I want to watch a show that my boyfriend doesn't like, and so I look forward to him like going out of town so I can just binge like 7 episodes. This most recently happened with The Last of Us. He does not like the show. He just doesn't like it. And I was like, oh, I really want to watch. Like, there's 2 episodes left, so I watched the second to last episode, which is like really
The second to Last of Us?
intense. Exactly. And he was just like in the like kitchen half watching it, and then it ended, and he was like, why did you make me do this? And I'm like, you know what? He's got a point. The show is a lot.
See, your lie there is when he says he has to go somewhere, you have to act disappointed. Like, oh, no,
Exactly.
you have dinner plans tonight? No.
I'm like, oh, you're going out of town for a whole week? Oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm going to watch so many movies.
I'm in a deeply devoted relationship with my wife in entertainment. I don't watch.
I was just going to ask the
mistake.
group.
Step out,
I was
Big
going to ask
mistake.
the group, like, what percentage
Once
do
I
you
pop,
guys?
I can't stop.
You're not better than me.
What percentage of commonalities do you guys have? Like, who would be in our room least likely to be compatible with their spouse on viewing interest? Because this can get very difficult if you and your spouse only agree on like 30% of
My
stuff.
wife cheats on me all the time with entertainment. All the time. There's a million shows that she watches that I don't watch, but
You
I
don't
don't watch
cheat
any
back.
shows without her.
I think
Content cuck.
I think, Dan, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. Wow.
I got cucked by Emily in Paris.
Do you like watching her watch other shows?
No.
We all got cooked by Emily.
Watching her watch a show.
Does she have friends? Does your friends come over and watch?
Does she have to tell you when she, as long as she's honest, right? As long as she's open and tells you when it's happening.
Just sit in the
Cucked by the
corner.
marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
You sit in a corner in an armchair, just you can't even see the screen. You're like facing her. No, but Dan, like I think if you guys don't,
I'm just peeking out from a closet watching Mrs. Maisel.
if you're not aligned,
Just
you're
in that
not
one
aligned,
weird hotel chair in the corner.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. With the light right above it.
It's the God forbid movie that Corbin did. Just your Jerry Falwell.
If you're not aligned on watching things, then that's the perfect situation because then everyone just watches whatever they watch. It's when you're too aligned. It's like, oh, I love that show. Me too. Oh crap! Now I have to do it at your pace. That's the.
So
sin.
you love when
Yeah.
you watch a show together and you love it and she hates it. Like that's nirvana.
No. It's not that like we watch it together. It's that we watch our own shit.
I don't have the time
That's
to
the
watch my
move.
own
No,
shit.
I kind
don't
of agree with
understand.
Amin. You kind of have to have your things, and they have to have their
Yeah.
things. Like my
Yeah.
boyfriend likes the Knicks, and he watches
Jesus.
that, and then I
That's
give him
easy to skip.
I give him time to do that while I watch my shit in the other room.
Second TV. Second TV. I watch Heat and Panthers on the second and third TV. So sports would be that thing for me.
We don't all have like 3 TVs hanging on
you
one
gotta
wall in
do
our
it.
house.
Also, by
That's
the way,
on you.
I
mean,
can't do it.
4.
I cannot have multiple TVs on a
Same.
wall and watch.
Have you ever been to a sports bar?
I know, but I
How do you
did-
live? You're like, I can't deal with
No, that's different because
But you have a separate room with another television, right? You
Yeah.
can watch
There's a
there.
reason why a sports
Right.
bar is a sports bar and your house is your house.
I was watching John Wick Chapter 2 while I was watching CONCACAF Champions League. And I saw a howler from the goalkeeper and I did the DiCaprio thing.
I would get nothing. I would get nothing from both. I would get nothing in the movie, and I would get nothing from the game. What happened? I don't know. Like the
Really?
goalie shot someone. I don't know. Like that's how my brain works.
No, it's too hard to watch 2 videos on screens next to each other at the same time. Now, going on TikTok on your phone while
One
there's
at a time.
TV playing, different size screens. For some reason, my brain processes
Sports
that.
too, though. I would think that sports next to each other
Depends on
are-
the sport, though.
I couldn't do. One of my friends growing up had like 15 TVs in his basement, and we would always like go over there watch college football. And I was like, honestly, I feel like I go home at the end of the night, and I'm like, I don't remember a
You
single thing.
can't
a lot of
do
questions about that for me.
sports
Ridiculous.
and
It's
The
stupid.
Last of Us. You can't
Yeah,
do both
sure,
of
you
those.
can.
Yeah,
No,
golf.
you can't.
Golf.
I did
Yeah.
No, you
Last
can't.
of Us and Heat Jazz. Just occasional glance,
See,
and
the
then during
NBA
crunch
is,
time a
no,
little
the
bit
NBA
more.
is too tricky. I think golf, you could do it. Major League Baseball,
Golf
you could
is the
do it.
worst for me.
Really?
Golf and F1 on mute is just like because I need to know what the commentators are telling me because I don't know the sports well enough.
I don't
Yeah.
know
You
what
don't
I'm
need to
looking
listen
at.
to golf.
Well,
You
like
literally
F1
just-
certainly, like
oh, Birdie.
Yep, they're going round and round.
Oh.
Oh, this person's in the DRS zone. What is the
But
DRS
golf
zone?
and baseball have enough, baseball used to, enough slow patches that you might be able to do it. You can't do this with basketball or hockey
yes,
where
I
you're
will.
watching
Agreed.
drama.
Basketball,
Basketball,
I do,
you
on the
just-
reg.
Last 2 minutes of basketball is all you really
Wait, we're
need to
already
say.
calling baseball a fast sport now?
Yeah.
I like that.
I have highlights
Fastest
sometimes
sport
up
in the
there.
country.
I have college baseball sometimes. Yeah, I do it all the time. I'm very well versed in this. It's very
But
easy.
how much do you actually retain?
From The Last of Us, I know everything.
No, I mean, like
The
when you're
sports.
watching
From the
like
sport?
3 different sporting events at once, like there's just no way you can retain all of that.
I'm sure I'm not retaining all of it, but the idea is to not retain all of it. The idea is to follow it, and if it comes up in conversation, given what the job is, like I can hold my own because I saw a combined 20 minutes from the game.
I wouldn't know anything.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Can you watch
either.
a drama on one television and sports, an entire game on the television next to it? Not that this is the best source on this stuff, but I believe the comedian Adam Carolla has said the key to a successful marriage is televisions in different rooms.
He's right. Yeah. I mean, especially
How
for
many
me.
successful marriages has Adam Carolla had?
Also, how old is Adam Carolla? Televisions, like everyone's got like a television in their pocket. That's the thing. I was surprised by Jess. I'm like, Jess, what do you mean? Like, oh, I can't watch it
he
with
divorced
Lehman.
in 2021.
You guys, do you even have a TV, Jess?
Carolla?
To be honest with you,
Yeah, so I don't have cable, but I have a TV.
I like in my mind, all you have are like tablets and like devices that you can carry with you. You don't actually have like a real TV.
Like young people have TVs.
Do they?
They just don't have cable.
How about that?
Yeah.
Let's
You watch
talk.
YouTube on a TV these days too, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, since you are in, let's talk about what Ethan Skolnick has reported that Donovan Mitchell wanted to come to Miami and would have liked to play with Bam, but had his reservations, evidently, about playing with Jimmy Butler.
Shout out to Ethan Skolnick and the
Miami Heat beat.
Yeah, I was gonna say it, man.
Hangover time.
And that too. It's interesting because, I get it and I don't get it, right? From one perspective, I get it because Jimmy has a reputation of rubbing people the wrong way. He's a very intense personality that burns people out. And then from another perspective, it's you're in Utah, and you could have gone to Miami, a team that was a shot away from the conference finals. And you pass on that because the guy's a little intense?
Wait, did he pass on it because he was under contract with the Utah Jazz?
Yes.
He wasn't a free agent.
Yes.
And Danny Ainge
Yeah.
doesn't really want to work with Pat Riley.
Yeah.
Pat
Well, but
Riley doesn't really want to work with Danny Ainge.
The part I'm more interested in addressing with Amin, right? Because, Mike, you keep talking about this. You keep bringing in that Jimmy's a lot. Jimmy rubs people the wrong way. But Jimmy's efficiencies are crazy this year. He's great this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that means or how it is that happens. You explain to me how it is that somebody can be so, quote-unquote, asshole that Donovan Mitchell is saying, yeah, not sure about that.
I think part of it is he wears people out, right? I don't think for some people Jimmy might rub them the wrong way instantly. For others, I think you go and by the way, Chris Paul has this reputation, Kobe had this reputation. It's like, yeah, oh man, he's really pushing me. I've never worked so hard. I'm getting better. And it's like, I just don't want to hear it anymore at some point. That happens. I think one of the crazier things I wonder is that Jimmy is kind of the last of a dying breed. I know we talk about it on Metalarkers this week, but Damian Lillard was kind of talking about how the NBA is changing and not necessarily to the good.
He doesn't like the way
the culture of the game. Yeah,
that everything is about ring chasing and no one else can be good unless they're winning the championship this minute, even if the championship's not being played for this minute.
Well, too bad.
But there also is an argument or a discussion, I should say, to be had about like sometimes this shit ain't easy and it's not fun, right? Like what Pat Riley say, like there's winning and there's misery. Like that is something now that is evaporating in our league. Like the idea that, oh, we're gonna have to do some things that we don't like to do. Guys like, what? What do you mean? I don't do that. I don't put up with that. I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine who worked for a team, and they were talking about like they were late because the rookie was late. And I said, he was late to the bus. Why didn't he just get the second bus? Like, no, that was the second bus. And I said, the rookie's riding on the second bus? And like, that's the NBA now. Like the NBA I worked in, I don't care if you were Jesus Christ drafted first overall. You're a rookie, you're going on the first bus. Second bus is for vets. First bus is for rookies. And then you had guys like Ray Allen who's like, I'm going to take an Uber or whatever to the arena before any of the buses. Now you've got like young guys saying, I don't take the first bus. And if you push on them in any way, you say, hey man, like you got to do this. Then they either fold or they rebel or what. Like you have this whole thing where it's like, there is no part of this that they're willing to take a discomfort to. And, you know, I'm not saying that about Donovan Mitchell, but there is an element of Jimmy that is from another era where guys are like, I don't know if I want to put up with someone who's demanding like that.
Jeremy Taché is around the Heat all the time. He's doing an assortment of things here for Meadowlark Media. Jeremy, what do you have for us on the subject of Jimmy Butler?
Well, realistically, with this report with Ethan, the thing that mattered in terms of context here is also what he was really saying, too, was not that Mitchell didn't want to be here, but that he only really desperately wanted to play with Bam, and looking at the construct of the team, wasn't willing to make the mess to make it just Miami. Miami is my only destination I'd like to be in. And I think that's the big difference when we look at this. It wasn't that Donovan Mitchell necessarily didn't want to play with Jimmy potentially and come down here and play with Bam, but more, he wasn't willing to go as far because of these things that we've heard about Jimmy Butler and the way he does have these demands of younger players in particular. It's why the undrafted guys have sort of worked for Jimmy, right? He's the type of guy who's pushing these guys to be something that they would not have been otherwise. It's why the culture carrying with Udonis Haslem has worked. It's why it's worked with Jimmy Butler specifically here. A bunch of dudes who never really thought they would be this great in the NBA, and he's brought that out of them.
He's cruel, correct?
He is.
I mean, again, I
He
think
is.
I think there's,
But in
there's
a
context.
motivating way.
I think there's a context to all of it, right? In 2023, some of what he does might feel callous, right? It's not a come on guys, let's work harder. It's
He's also
accusatory
he's also very temperamental, and sometimes he has his days where it falls on the way wrong side. And it's not just motivational.
Wait, guys.
It's just Jimmy being a jerk.
Yeah.
But who is Donovan Mitchell? He doesn't want to be pushed? Like Jimmy Butler, you choose to play with Jimmy Butler, who went to the NBA Finals, who was a shot away from going to the NBA Finals. You've never done that, being the best guy on your team, and you don't want to be pushed.
Well, he chose not to play with him.
I know, but sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Like that would have been a better option for Donovan Mitchell to join a team that's a shot away from the NBA Finals.
You say who's Donovan Mitchell? He scored 71 in a game. Stugotz, like I mean, okay, he doesn't get out of
perennial all-star.
He doesn't get out of the rounds that you'd like him to get out of as the lead on a team, but neither did Jimmy Butler before he came down here.
I know, but Jimmy Butler has, and he's done it recently. So if you're basing it off the last couple of years, you see a guy, hey, he led his team to the NBA Finals and was a shot away from the NBA Finals. I don't want to play with him. He pushes me too hard. Get out of here.
Look at us. Remember when you guys were questioning, like, Jimmy Butler, a superstar? And now Stugotz was like, that man went to the NBA Finals.
I'm as shocked as anybody. I didn't think he could do it, but he's done it.
Well, at the time, wasn't Bam talked about as being one of the pieces you would need to get Donovan Mitchell? So you might have not even been able to play with him.
But this is what the reality of that report was trying to contextualize, right? Is that you needed Donovan Mitchell to make so much of a stink and make it so much about only Miami that you could get away with not trading Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler to get him here.
Yeah, and that wasn't going to happen.
Let's talk for a second, though, as we were trying to yesterday, Amin, about how all of this ages. Not just Jimmy Butler, but everything around him. The person who comes in here and tries to take this out of his cold, dead fingers, this team, Jimmy Butler's not going to look in a mirror 2.5 years from now when he's not efficient, when his jump shot's not falling, when he can't get the 15 free throws a game, and will it be willing to cordially just sort of give up everything that's his here? How is this going to age? And what's his contract worth right now? Because I suspect right now it's still worth. Right now you could get a good amount for Jimmy Butler.
I mean, again, his reputation precedes him. So it would have to be a particular situation where the players are bought into having someone like that around and you're not giving up too much that would leave you with not enough afterwards or all that. But how does it age? I think ideally what the Heat, how they want to age is that Bam is more assertive and takes those reins as far as being the best player on the team. And I guess Tyler is the perimeter version of that, right? Kind of how like Giannis needed Chris Middleton to kind of do stuff at times because he didn't have that skill set, that Tyler would be that guy. I don't know. The crazy thing is I don't know if they can be those guys if Jimmy is still there, right? At some point, it's always Big Brother, right?
Realistically, Bam has been that guy like all year long until this stretch for a couple of weeks where Jimmy now has decided, well, we desperately need wins, so I'm going to be that guy again. And Bam and Tyler were clearly from the beginning of this season what it was supposed to be. It was taking the workload off of Jimmy. It's why he's been so efficient all year. Now it's that the usage rate, it's going back up. Jimmy's usage rate is down this year. Mm-hmm. Bam has taken an uptick in usage rate, not that crazy from last season, but he and Tyler were supposed to be and have been the guys sort of carrying the offense. That's part of why, though, there's been these levels of really poor performances offensively when Tyler's been inconsistent and Bam has a crazy workload on the other end.
But
as
I mean,
well.
where are you? Because you've been really hard on Bam. And Bam has been excellent.
Yep.
Bam has outperformed where he's been drafted. He's outperformed all expectations. The reason the expectations are where they are on Bam is only because he's been so far above expectations, and yet you want more from him. I don't know that there's more there to get. And I was saying yesterday that the only way that Bam becomes better than Jimmy is if Jimmy becomes worse. It's not Bam getting another level of better that makes him even.
I don't think that's possible?
Well, I mean, we've seen how much of Bam, like he's great,
yeah.
But this is what he is. Like, how much better would you like? You've been calling consistently for him to be better than he is. I don't know how much more you can ask from him. Defensively, he's the core to everything they do. Donovan Mitchell wants to play with him. Kevin Durant wants to play with him. Anybody would want to play with him. And in order for it to become his team, it can't happen with Jimmy Butler here.
I think there's a level of assertion that I would like. First of all, he's played great this year. Let me. I don't want. This isn't. He's not Idris.
That's very nice of you.
I know he was Idris, and then he started this year, and I was like, okay, he's Bam again. So I want to give him that credit. I think, like many kingdoms of days old, sometimes you can't wait for the king to die. Sometimes you got to go there and get that crown, right? And I think. That's
a tough ask.
I mean, I know that's a tough son of a bitch you're trying to get it from, but like that's what it requires, right? If you're going to be that guy, truly that guy, not just I play really well and I'm one of the guys, right? It's truly this is my team.
Should Bam be that guy though?
I think he should. I don't. But the only way Stugotz said I know that he should is if he goes and snags it, right? If he sits by meekly and as well, let Jimmy do what he wants, then it's never going to happen because Jimmy, like you said, from his cold dead fingers, he's going to be this guy till he's out of the league. So at some point, that needs to shift, right?
That's so much easier said than done.
I know. No, I know.
I mean, he comes into the league and fulfills his every dream because Jimmy Butler has helped lead him to where, and that's team to where it is. Taking the team from Jimmy Butler, how, where, when?
But Dan, like that's kind of a hallmark of greatness. If we're not talking about being a really good player, we're talking about being great. And a hallmark of greatness is sometimes making that coup attempt. Even when people say you should, think of Shaq and Kobe.
But yes, I was just going to bring up Shaq and Kobe. That did not go well. Like that,
but then it did.
They both ended up winning titles on their own.
But then it did. But
that played out in public with taste. Tell me how my ass tastes. No. That's Shaq.
It went well for us.
That was Kobe in the papers calling Shaq fat and saying like that.
Content.
That's what it has to be.
I'm not saying it has to go down in that way. What I'm saying is that at some point Kobe said, "I'm not content being number 2 to this guy anymore."
I don't think that these two guys are at that place. And realistically, this season has not been about whether or not the two of them can be the two lead guys on a great team. Their entire supporting cast has been awful all year long.
Yeah.
Bam has stepped up on multiple big occasions. Look, they came into a game after losing against the Knicks and that buzzer beater against Julius Randle. The next night, on the second night of a back-to-back, Bam drops 30 and 11, scoring, I believe, 10 points in the fourth quarter. Like, he was the dude. And he has been the dude for a bunch of huge games for this team. Jimmy's given him that space to be that and constantly says he wants him to be that. The two of them don't always play so well off of each other. And I think that's why, like on the offensive end, and I think that's why people question whether or not they can be the two leaders. Realistically, and we brought it up on Monday when we talked about it, it is about whether or not Tyler Hero can consistently be the third to that mix, because what he does offensively just opens up so much of what the other two guys do.
And to Jeremy's earlier point, if Max Strus and Gabe Vincent could hit a shot, none of this would be a conversation. We'd be talking about Bucks, Celtics, Heat at the top.
Or if Kyle Lowry wasn't a waterlogged corpse.
You making the Shaq Kobe comparison though, you're going to have a hard time finding a lot of examples that you can give me of guy who has worked under established veteran who is a star and became a star on this team. This has been the best experience for success that Jimmy Butler has ever had. Bam came in under his wing. You're not going to find a whole lot of guys who have sat second and then do what Devin Booker is doing now, where it's like, okay, Kevin Durant, you can come in here and it can be yours.
I think there are examples. It's just they're never quite at the heights, right? Like Shaq and Kobe is an example of it happening at the height of it, right? 3 titles in a row. And yet one of them wasn't content, and then they had to make their changes. But a lot of times, like, again, it's going to sound ridiculous, Monte Ellis and Steph Curry. Like, they had to get Monte Ellis out of there in order for Steph Curry to become who he was supposed to be.
They couldn't do it together. Monte Ellis wasn't willing to give that over to Steph.
That's my point. It's like that. Sometimes,
you think Jimmy is?
Yeah. But that's the conversation we're having.
I know he's ascended later in his career to alpha dog, but early in his career, he was very deferential.
Who?
Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler in Chicago and in Philadelphia. Until it came time to. He was the best player in that Raptors series, but he wasn't what was considered to be the alpha on that team. He was a second piece to help get them over the hump.
So here's the thing. In Chicago, that doesn't count because he was a different person, right? In Chicago, he was the happy to be here. I was the last pick of the first round. And as time went on, he got better and better and better, and the older guys got worse, and then he reached a point where he's the best player on the team. And I remember,
but then he went to Minnesota, was alpha there, and then accepted a secondary role in Philadelphia.
Well, but like he
just hated Ben Simmons.
But that's my point. Like he still is rubbing people.
But he was good with
way.
Embiid.
But it's got to be someone that he respects and thinks that is better than him.
No,
I'm not certain he feels that way about Bam.
I know. I think he feels that way about Bam. I don't think there's a personal. Like,
there's not an issue between them.
It's not at all.
Said. Bam works way too hard for that to be a problem.
He loves them.
Jimmy wants workers. Jimmy wants people who work. But like Jeremy said, there is a basketball incongruence. Neither of them can shoot. Both of them like to have the ball in their hands. Both of them are good at making other people better when the ball's in their hands. That's really hard to make work on a basketball court unless everyone else is lights out, which last year they were. This year they're not.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's not sometimes about like the personal animus. When we talk about Shaq and Kobe, it turned into a personal animus. But it's just about, hey, in order for this plant to grow, you got to cut this one down because the sunlight has to.
It's so hard.
Kevin Johnson and Mark Price is another example. Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Like there's all these examples of someone coming up as the lesser, and then at some point, like, I need my situation, and they play out differently all across the league.
Mike is saying good soldier stuff about Jimmy Butler. That was before the beer commercials, Mike. That was before the finals performances. That'll change somebody's attitude. I'm thinking Jimmy Butler has a higher esteem now than he did 3 years ago.
I'm not going to push too much back on that, but I do believe Jeremy when he tells me that both Bam and Jimmy would rather not be carrying the scoring load.
Right.
I think their style of play does play into being number two to a superstar number one. Like if Kevin Durant were here everybody would be excited and say, yeah,
Yep.
Eastern Conference champions.
30 teams.
That's the part that works out great.
No, I
though.
understand.
Like that's 30 teams though.
No,
Like,
I-
it's like oh,
But
Devin
if Donovan
Booker.
Mitchell were here, I think that he would actually fit really well with their game too.
This is why Tyler Hero is able to get off shots, right? Like both Bam and Jimmy would rather not be the primary scorer on their team. Neither one of them. Bam's been basically forced into being this aggressive offensive player. He wants to help on the defensive end. He wants to do all the in the mud stuff. Jimmy's the same way. He said it over and over again. He'd much rather the team have 8 double-figure scorers than him scoring 30 on a given night. But he's an over-competitive maniac, which has made him the player who he is. And so that's why he's taking over these games late in the season. But it doesn't always work.
Amin can speak to this, though. It is, and it hurts me to say this, it is an architectural failure that in today's NBA, you would have 2 guys to be willing to do that, and you can't get them the guy to construct the thing so that Tyler
I've been
Hero
trying to tell you
is
guys.
the 30-point game guy. It's rare to have 2 guys like that who are willing to do all the shit
Pat
nobody
Riley's
wants to
failed
do.
the team, failed the city.
No, but Mike,
Exactly.
again, if Mike said before the
Finally.
season,
I don't want any part of this conversation.
Failed the team, failed the city,
but
failed the windows.
Mike, if you said before the season, I don't believe that Strus gave Vincent and Duncan. I don't think these. I think it was a flash in the pan, and we're counting on guys who you can't count on. Then I'd be right with you. Say, yeah, they didn't do enough. They're where they are not because they didn't get Kevin Durant or they didn't get Donovan Mitchell.
Dude, I was saying they didn't do enough during the offseason.
But you were looking for
I
that
never trusted
splash.
Duncan Robinson. I certainly
Well, no
never
one trusts
trusted
Duncan
Kyle
Robinson.
Lowry. I had my reservations about Tyler Hero. I was trying to take every trade to trade Tyler Hero away to get that guy. Don't hit me with that. Don't put that on me. Amin.
Hold on, but what I'm telling you is that if Strus and Vincent hit shots, we're not having this conversation right now.
Splash.
I am not certain that you have been harsher on anyone throughout I don't know how many years you've been on the show, 15, 16 years, than Kyle Lowry.
Oh, he stinks.
Both of us.
He stinks.
No, this is going back to Toronto.
Nice man. Very nice man.
You
Seems
would
like a
talk to
sweetheart.
him in Tahoe.
No, I didn't want him at Tahoe. You were like, should we get Kyle Lowry? I'm like, you guys talk to him.
He was right in front of us.
I want nothing to do with him.
Mike refused to.
Stinks.
It really is as simple as if Gabe Vincent and Max Strus hit like 2% more of their 3-pointers, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
But Mike, he's such a nice guy.
Super. Sweetheart. Great guests on our show. Very kind to us.
You hear it morphing? He's turning in his ass slowly and like.
Oh, Kyle Lowry? He knows what he did.
The tournament is beginning, Stugotz, and locally we have the rare interest from people in
FAU.
Or we had I would say it is a deflating injury. I don't know what the updates are. I know that Mike Ryan was crushed.
I'm hearing whispers that Norchad Omier is trying to give it a go. They did catch a break with the Friday game. I'm not thrilled that they got a 5 seed, but they actually have a relatively good chance in this bracket. If Omier were healthy, I'd favor them, but he's very clearly going to be hampered a little bit, even if he does try to give it a go. And I don't know if you've seen the stats for the University of Miami when they have Omier on the floor and when they don't. He is the ACC Player of the Year. I know they gave it to Zay Wong. He is the most important player on this team. They're just not a good basketball team without baby food out there.
The way they seeded the ACC is weird, where Miami's a 5, Virginia's a 4, Duke, who won the conference tournament, is a 5 as well, I believe, right?
No, there's been no respect for the ACC conference-wide. Xavier's a 3. Xavier has a worse record than Miami. Miami won the ACC, this prestige conference. They just looked down on the ACC just like they did last year.
Because Miami won it.
Well, they looked down on it last year, and you had Duke and North Carolina in the Final Four. I will say, though, in watching things like the ACC Big Ten Challenge, granted, my focus is primarily locked in on the ACC, and I'm going to be as homer about its basketball prowess as anybody, but they're not as good at – the Big 12 is certainly the best conference out there, and the ACC isn't what it was, but I don't understand, like, these mid-majors getting the same kind of respect that an ACC champion like St. Mary's and Miami getting the same seed just boggles the mind.
But you went, though, from hoping that you'd be in a Final Four to worried about getting out of the first game.
I'm terrified of Drake. Yeah, we're only a 2.5-point favorite, I think, with good reason. That's a really bad injury. And Duke won that game because, I mean, they got some help from the refs, but that's, of course, Duke is Duke. But like we would have won that game if baby food were out there. We have a representative sample to know that Miami is better than Duke when baby food is out on the court. And if he's hampered in any way, that makes them a way worse defensive team, and they're not that good to begin with. And last year when they made their deep run, everything started at the point of attack with forcing turnovers. Nigel Pack isn't what Charlie Moore was there. Zay Wong can dial back into it, and Jordan Miller is a really good defender, but he's asked to play inside, and he's probably going to be asked to be playing inside way more if Omier is hurt. They don't really have – we were saying it all season long. I feel really good about this team if they had a second big, because even their big is not that big. He's 6'5".
6'5". Chris Cody, did you have the same reaction that I did when Mike Ryan says he's been hearing whispers? Does this mean, because he's connected to the University of Miami, does it mean that important people are actually whispering it? Does it mean that he is walking near timeout huddles where people are talking and they're covering their
Just
mouth
hanging around,
like
Dan.
LeBron, and he's reading lips, or like who's whispering? What's this hearing of whispers?
I think that this is being shouted in his ear. He just doesn't want to tell us.
No, it's not being shouted. It's being whispered. Because I'm saying
But it's a loud arena. So to Dan's point, they're probably talking at a normal level, just like, close to your ear.
Because I don't know how to handicap whether or not he'll play.
Are you
I don't
sure
know.
it's not a rumbling?
No, these are whispers.
These are not rumbling.
Rumblings are better than whispers, right?
Rumblings is when more than one, like a whisper, one person can whisper something.
If I had to
Whereas
call
if
it-
multiple people tell you something, that's a rumbling.
That's
I
a
thought for
rumbling.
sure he wasn't going to play, and I heard whispers saying he might give it
So
a go.
it's one person he heard.
What about
Murmurs?
It
murmurs?
could be
No, but that
multiple
one
whispers.
person heard it from a couple
Is that below whispers?
So that is
Yeah.
Murmurs
rumbles.
are like murmurs to me are not like fully formed words. They're like, I don't know, these
Murmurs are before
Coming back.
whisper.
They
They're even
might
lower on the
It's
high.
not a fully formed whisper, Dan. It's a murmur.
Okay,
I don't know if they can
Yes.
beat Drake if baby food isn't out there.
I don't know that you should have any reason to hope if he's even injured in a way that cuts his strength.
There was a really good thread on how impactful he is on the floor, and this is an analytics guy, and he just flatly called us a bad basketball team when
I
he's
thought
not
their
out there.
chances went down as soon as he did. I don't know how he plays.
Against Drake or just in
Just
like
period.
making it
I don't have
making a deep run?
I don't have
Right.
expectations for them at all. I don't. Duke.
I mean, isn't it like does it?
The game they lost against Duke, Stugotz, if you saw how it is, what are you looking at, Chris?
What did it mean? What happened with Amin
There
right
was just
there?
a bunch of sounds.
That was murmurs.
No, they weren't murmurs. They didn't even qualify as
like,
murmurs. It was like it sounded like someone punched you in
All
the
right.
kidney.
I'm gonna throw a bio description that's gonna make Stugotz check out right away. Former blog chair of the Harvard Sports Analysis Collective,
See ya.
What's his name?
William Ezekowitz. He from a betting perspective,
William or John?
William.
Because I know John Ezekowitz, who went to Harvard, who works in sports analytics.
Zeke.
Well, look at me.
Hit it.
The Ezekowitzes have a family monopoly on stats.
I didn't know you had a brother.
So it was actually a good thread if you're an action junkie looking to get in responsibly on DraftKings. You may not know all the impactful injuries. There's a lot on the men's side of the bracket, and we'll get into the women too for a little bit because they're also in the tournament, just on the heels, I think, of that win at Virginia Tech earlier this season. But Jalen Clark for UCLA is a bad injury. UVA is worse without Ben Vander Plas, but Miami is flat up awful without Norchad Omier. And he puts the defensive metrics for Miami without Omier, who erases so much, who plays so much bigger than his stature. They're not a tournament team without Omier. It's why I got upset, even though Zay Wong, I'm so happy he got the career achievement. He was not deserving of ACC Player of the Year.
You were really upset about that. I don't know what that sound
Omier
was
got-
Billy made in the ground. In the
Omier got
background.
third-team ACC. Just tell me you don't watch ACC without telling me you don't watch ACC.
The people that vote on ACC probably watch ACC.
No, I'm
though.
telling you right
They
now,
must
Zay
not.
Wong.
I think
No,
they
if
just
they gave
did
it to
what-
Zay Wong, they
because
just
of what
watched
he
a
did
tournament last year.
Yeah.
Was that a murmur from Billy?
I don't think that was a murmur. I still want to know if murmur is the lowest thing in terms of sports information. Is the least reliable and least loud of the information bridges and passageways the murmur? Or because rumbling is ahead of whispers, I think, but I think I'm hearing
Whispers turn into rumblings, Dan.
but murmurs
Yes.
turn into whispers?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
So is there
That's the way I have it.
is there
at least.
anything lower than the murmur? Do we have anything that
Gossip?
Gossip is more diluted.
Right?
It's not, but it's louder.
It's louder, but it's not as
But it's also whispered and murmured. Gossip is not just shouted.
talk.
Certainly.
What about when they say there's talk?
I've heard talk.
Yeah, talk.
Talk out loud is higher than the whisper because.
But again, is it diluted though? There's talk is very kind of.
Yes, talk is not. It's not even reports. Reports is stronger.
That's the strongest one.
What's
Reports.
scuttlebutt? Where's that?
Scuttlebutt.
What is scuttlebutt? I thought about this the other day. I don't know what scuttlebutt
Draymond,
is.
according to Shaq.
I also
An NBA Cantrell.
I also don't know what nitty gritty is. Do you guys know what?
Oh, yeah.
no,
That's what you get
Everyone
down
knows
to.
what the
Yeah.
nitty-gritty
Nitty-gritty is
is.
basically brass tacks.
Yeah.
Nitty gritty was
Yeah.
the thread that you were just reading on your phone.
When it gets down to the nitty gritty.
Where does silence
The
fall on
nitty-gritty
this?
stuff.
I
Because
like
sometimes
brass tacks is better though.
silence can speak volumes sometimes.
That's true.
Brass taxes.
Especially when it's
I
golden.
do. Yeah.
Brass taxes.
Yeah. When you get down to
just
something,
tax.
it feels better getting down to.
You know
brass
what?
tacks.
It took me a long time to realize it wasn't brass tacks with an X. I was like, the brass tacks, right? You get down to paying the brass
It's
tax.
like the tourism fee, a resort fee, the brass tax.
Juju, put it on the poll, please, because I really don't know what either the nitty or the gritty is. I don't know what either of those things are. Does anyone?
Mac Jones did the gritty at Radio Row last year.
Yeah,
With
if you
me.
watch the Flyers, you'll know what the gritty is too. There's a cool little quirk in the brackets that the men and women could be playing Indiana in the second round too.
I thought you could say this.
Are you really worried about UM against Drake?
Yeah.
Don't be. It's God's plan.
Drake? Drake? Drake?
Ever since your Mims line, man.
The team that didn't qualify that winning its conference?